Welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell.
How's Susan feeling?
I'm good. Well, we're recording this on a Friday, so I'm feeling extra great now. I'm ready for the weekend.
Oh man, just let it loose. What are you gonna do?
So that's less fun.
Okay.
Yard work.
Oh gosh,
we have to do that swap to summer or winter grass from summer grass.
Exactly.
So I think we're a little bit late to the game.
Yeah.
Hubby's doing a lot of the work today. I'm going to go home and help after work.
That's overseeding for the yard.
I know.
Not fun. And
how about you? What are you doing this weekend?
Not much. A lot of football to watch.
There you go.
Between college and I don't know what's going on with the Cardinals. Yeah. That's another topic for another time.
I get to start my weekend with a first graders flag football game tonight.
Oh,
so you could come cheer for the first grade Rams if you want.
I think that is so cool.
I know.
So, do they have like practice and everything?
Yeah, they practice once a week and they have the little games. It's so fun.
Oh,
it's cute.
I was going to say, I bet that's so cute to watch.
It's adorable.
And
like the completion rate is 0.01%.
Yeah.
But it's so fun.
Oh my gosh. Well, the kids have fun and it's exercise.
Yeah.
Get them off that screen time.
I love it. Yeah.
So we're talking today about vacation and PTO.
I love PTO.
Paid time off. Did you take a lot of vacation this year?
I took a couple summer vacations. We always go visit both sides of the family.
Yeah,
and
you got to do that.
And then for fall break, we went for an extended weekend. We went out of town for like 5 days to the beach with some friends.
Yeah. We have accrued time here, which I think the corporations got really smart because back like several years ago, for instance, I get like 5 weeks a year. And then January would come and all of a sudden, boom, I got 5 weeks. And then if I was to leave, say in February, I'd still get all those 5 weeks.
So you could like plan on it. Yeah.
Yeah. But now companies got smart and they're like accruing it. So like, I think for me, I'm accruing like 17 hours a month.
Makes sense.
And then if you leave in February, it's just
the 17
you just
plus
get,
hours.
You just get whatever you accrued. So they're getting smart in that aspect of it. But are you taking any more time? We got October.
So I'm going to take some time around Christmas. I always try to leave the year with a few days I can roll over into next year because I don't like exhausting everything and starting the new year because I feel like you're just setting yourself up for disaster with sick days if that happens.
Yeah, that's true. So today we're talking about PTOs and people really not using it.
Why not?
I have some ideas, and I will tell you, I am guilty of that exact, not taking PTOs.
I know you're always at your desk, and I'm like, Gary, use your time.
And I'll tell you why in just a minute.
Okay.
But hey, we're talking to Toni Frana. She is a career expert manager with FlexJobs, and she is joining us on the On Your Side podcast from the Florida Panhandle. How are you today, Toni?
I'm great. How are you, Gary and Susan? Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, PTO. People are not using their PTO, and you did a lot of research on this. What did you find out?
Well, we found out that almost a quarter of people are using no PTO days in an entire year, which I think is incredible because PTO is a benefit that employers give you when you are hired. And so it is definitely something that you should feel good about using. But I think as we'll get into this conversation a little bit more, there's probably some reasons and some challenges and some considerations that people are always thinking about when they're considering whether or not they should use their PTO benefit or not.
Okay, so a quarter of people not taking any days. What are most people doing? Are they taking a week, 2 weeks? What are we actually looking at for this, for most people who are kind of right in the middle?
Yeah, it's kind of spread out, actually. Some people, about 20%, say that they've taken 5 days off in the past year. So that amounts to about 1 work week. 20% said they took 10 days, so 2 work weeks. 18% said they took more than 15 days. And then, it kind of rounds out with 17% that kind of take the 11 to 15 days, a little bit more than 2 weeks to 3 weeks. And so it kind of is, evenly spread in terms of percentages. But again, there's still this people feel this guilt associated with taking PTO, and that maybe their workload is going to kind of back up while they're gone, or maybe they don't have any coverage. And so these are all things that people consider when they're thinking about when to take time off and how much to actually use of their benefit.
I can kind of commiserate with the idea of things backing up while you're off, because I do dread coming back from a vacation and knowing that I'm going to open my email inbox and it's going to say I have 500 emails.
Right.
And then I also have, a story that I have to have ready to go today and tomorrow and the next day. And I have to have all of that planned and all of that on the calendar ahead of time. So you end up working extra hard to be able to go and enjoy your PTO.
Yeah. In order for us to take vacation, we really have to work extra hard for that week that we plan to take off. And I have to leave stories while I'm gone, news reports while I'm gone, which, that's one reason why I don't really like taking PTO. It's just kind of a pain in the rear to get all those stories together. Not to mention, like you just said, we have to have news reports ready to go when we hit the door and returning from vacation.
Yeah.
So
it's a lot. So is there another reason that you have banked all of your PTO? Like, do you have, besides just the extra work that it creates by taking the days?
Yeah. Well, like Toni said, it's kind of like the guilt. I feel, like this segment is kind of like our baby, right?
Yeah.
And when I'm gone, I feel like, what am I missing out on?
Yeah.
Or what could I be getting done right now? You mentioned emails.
Uh-huh.
I always check my emails on vacation.
Do you?
Yeah.
Just to stay up with it?
Only because I just want to, delete, because I don't want to come back from vacation and have 500 emails. That'll take an hour to get through. So I can kind of like get rid of the ones that are not important, and I can still keep or flag the ones that I, need to respond to or whatever.
I have to let our listeners into a little secret. You are a serial deleter. I have sent you emails before that I know have been deleted before they've been read. I get lumped into the, this is important junk.
I'm not going to argue with that. And I think recently you said, I sent you that email.
Yeah.
Maybe it was our producer, Colin, but I'm like, I didn't see that. And then I go into my delete file.
Yeah, it was there.
And there it is, unopened.
Yep.
So, well, you know what? I'm getting into that. I'm just swiping, and then I just get carried away. I'm sorry.
If anybody has emailed Gary, there is a chance that he didn't see it. It's not that he was being rude.
Yeah, I get into that swiping mode, and it just goes quicker than I like.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about the survey that you took. What you just told us is kind of like a little jaw dropping with why people are not taking their PTO. What else did you find out?
Well, I think that, what we found is company culture really also does sort of impact whether employees, take their time off or not, because if they're not seeing their manager or leaders higher up in the organization actually utilize this benefit, it does give them a little bit of pause thinking, is this really something that I should take, or is it just something that is on paper and not really something that's practiced across the organization? So I do think that that's something that plays into an employee's mind, particularly with all the reasons that you guys were just talking about too, being, behind or having all these emails to catch up on. And, it really kind of filters up and down whether or not people are taking time off. And whatever the example is that's set from leadership is usually what will happen across the organization.
Yeah, I'm looking at a graphic here that you guys had published, and it says like the number one reason they're avoiding their PTO, workload is just too heavy. That's 43%. 34% say they just don't have enough paid time off, which that kind of goes to the accruing that we talked about earlier. And they fear falling behind. A third of them, 30%, they fear falling behind. This is a problem.
Absolutely, it is. And I think if you think about what happens when we don't take a break and we don't get a reprieve from something, you experience burnout, you experience less mental being. And so I think that the ramifications are not just felt from an individual perspective, but also from an employer perspective as well, because employees are not as committed or dedicated to the work if they're continually feeling like they're burned out and they can't take advantage of some of these benefits that the company's offering for their own benefit, for the employee's benefit.
So if we are on the job hunt, how do we kind of evaluate if it is a company that values the PTO benefit, like you were saying? I mean, how do I can't go into an interview and say, hey, boss, how much PTO do you take, right?
Yes.
Like, but how do I evaluate that to kind of determine, is this going to fit? Is there going to be a work-life balance? Am I going to feel okay about taking off, my 2 weeks without feeling guilty?
That's such a great point. And I think this starts prior to an interview, of course, with some research and seeing if you can identify what the PTO policy is prior to your interview. But while you're not going to go into an interview and ask, hey, what's it like to take PTO, or how much PTO do I get? You can ask some very thoughtful questions to kind of get an idea of how PTO is viewed at the organization. You might say something like, how is the team encouraged to use their paid time off? Or you could, if you were comfortable, ask something like, what is it like, or what happens if somebody needs to completely unplug for a week? And then when you're listening to the answers, you can kind of evaluate, now, is this something that feels like it is a policy that is looked at as a positive, that people actually use it? Or is there some hesitancy or, reticence to kind of say, yeah, people really don't unplug, and that's something that we have a hard time with here? That's kind of what you want to evaluate when you're in an interview.
I think there's a lot of guilt too when you're asking your supervisor/manager for time off, because you don't know exactly what the reaction is going to be. Like, you just took off 2 months ago. Why do you need another week off?
I have never once felt guilty about asking for PTO.
Well, and I don't either, but sometimes
yeah, it depends on the job.
And it depends on the job. Like being in the news industry, like we are, there's a lot of people that want to take off at the same time, and that in a newsroom that just does not happen, right? Because we have news. News doesn't quit while you're on PTO. So like if you want to take a week off, well, Joe's already taken it off, or Sarah's already taken it off.
Darn it, Joe and Sarah. No,
I like those make-up names.
I was going to say that's a really good point too, because one of the things that you can ask of your manager, or even during an interview, is how is communication handled, or projects, how are they handled, the ongoing things that need to get done every day when somebody is out of the office or on vacation. And that also can help you formulate, okay, beforehand, the company already has a plan in place to cover for people who are on PTO. So that means that I can provide them with A, B, and C of my work so that they have awareness of it when I'm gone, so that everybody has an easier time when I'm gone. And also when I come back, it's maybe not as hard to jump right back into the work that needs to get done. Because for you guys, the news never sleeps, right? And for a lot of people, their jobs do require those hard deadlines and prioritization. And so really having a good understanding and being proactive about how to manage when you're out of the office can be really helpful for everybody.
A bunch of years ago, there was a trend toward unlimited PTO. That was one of the benefits that especially like a lot of tech companies were tossing around, like unlimited PTO. How is that working in practicality? Is that even still a benefit that people are trying to use, or was it just not working because people weren't taking the time?
Wait, explain that though. Unlimited PTO. I've never heard of that. How does that work?
Yeah, that was like this huge trend where it was just like, if you get your work done, you figure out how to get your work done and do whatever you need to do.
Wow.
You didn't have to, have a set number of hours or days or whatever.
Right. As long as you got your workload done, you
take your time.
Take your time.
Yeah, unlimited PTO sounds fantastic in theory. And actually, I've worked at organizations that have that benefit. I personally really love it. But in practice, what we found, or what people have found, is that people actually take less time off with an unlimited PTO policy than they would if they were accruing PTO or had 3 weeks at the beginning of the year. And that's because there's a little bit of gray area with what does that actually mean to have unlimited PTO. And so if the company doesn't have clear directives, like it's up to your manager's discretion, or your PTO is contingent upon being able to have all your work done, as we were talking about, and making sure that you have coverage, it becomes a question for employees. Well, how much is too much? And that kind of then is a whole other layer of struggle when an employee is deciding to take some time off. And that makes it a little bit challenging, because then that benefit is there. And they're not using it at all. And then you kind of think about, well, burnout and all of those things that I was mentioning before. So in theory, it's a great idea. In execution, it really does take a little bit of thought and some additional direction other than just unlimited days off.
Yeah, I think that one would stress me out a little bit. I worked at a place one time that had unlimited sick days, which was a really, I thought, generous, kind policy. You know, it was a family owned and operated business, and they were just like, you know what, if they had some health things in their past, and they're like, if something comes up with your family, we want you to be able to handle it without thinking about the job.
Right.
And that one was, I loved how that worked because it was about the sick time, not about, vacations. I like a little more structure, like knowing that when I go on vacation, I can turn off the work phone and not think about it for a second and not feel that like, oh, does this count? Does this not count? Am I on the clock? Am I not?
Right. Toni, it's kind of a trade-off for management, right? Because if you're not taking if your employees are not taking time off, there is going to be burnout, and your job is going to suffer, and things may not get done that should have gotten done because you're burned out. So I don't know why managers don't encourage people to take more PTO, right? Because it seems like it would help the workload.
Yeah, and I think I think with more of this data coming out, we are going to see a shift in encouraging people to use this benefit. Now, it may be gradual, but I think job seekers and employees are really going to be the drivers of kind of changing this culturally a little bit in terms of how the benefit of PTO is being used, because companies stand to benefit from employees who are thriving and excited and committed to being at work at that organization. And so this is one of those ways with the benefit that's provided that they can encourage those types of things, and they will see reward and benefit from it as well as the individual.
Hey, tell us a little bit about FlexJobs. That's who you're with, and you did this very interesting survey. So what does FlexJobs do, and what can people learn from FlexJobs?
Yeah, so FlexJobs is a website and job board that helps people find flexible work. Now, flexible work could be fully remote, partially remote, or hybrid, as it's called now. There might be temporary positions, any kind of position that offers some level of flexibility outside of a normal 9-to-5 in-office job are the types of jobs you're going to find on FlexJobs across more than 50 different industries and all different career levels. We also have a plethora of resources available to job seekers to help guide them, not only in their job search, but in their professional and career development. We can talk about negotiating salary, negotiating for other benefits like PTO, if that's something that's important to you, and many different resources available for people in this time frame where being a job seeker is a little bit challenging right now.
Yeah, what's the cost for something like that?
We have varying degrees of cost for being a member of FlexJobs. That starts at, I believe, $295 for a 2-week subscription, and then it goes up from there 3 months annually. And our website, flexjobs.com, you can find out all of that information and work with our client services team to help you figure out what is the best model for you.
Okay. All right. Hey, listen, Toni, thank you very much for being on the On Your Side podcast. What's the website or anything that people can look up for FlexJobs? What is it?
Yes, it's www.flexjobs.com.
Oh, you make it so easy. So easy. All right. Thank you so much, and enjoy the panhandle down there, okay?
Thank you guys so much. Bye.
All right. I want to take some time off now.
No kidding.
I mean, we're talking about all this PTO. I have a lot accrued, too, and I really need to start using it.
You need a vacation every once in a while.
We all do. So are you going to start using more, or?
I have my plan for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
And we've got a little bit of time off after Christmas, and then we'll get into the new year and reevaluate the calendar when we get the school schedule.
Yeah.
Everything revolves around that.
You got to plan for, you got Christmas coming up, and then you got spring break, and then you got, Here we are. A lot of planning. The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton, and I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can't, send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock, and every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.